Okay, so hello everyone. Thank y'all for joining us. I believe all of our speakers are here right now. My name is Jessica Chavez and I am volunteering with San Antonio Startup Week, and I'm gonna go ahead and pass on over the torch to Iris Gonzalez. She's gonna be the moderator for overcoming this She-cession while launching and growing your business during COVID-19. So Iris.
Thanks, Jessica. And thank you for joining us today for what should be an incredibly powerful discussion. One cannot deny the impacts of the ongoing pandemic on women-owned businesses. We just cannot allow COVID-19 to set back an entire generation of female entrepreneurs. So the goal for our 60-minute discussion is to help viewers better understand the impact of COVID-19 on the business operations of companies from a gender perspective, as well as offer some nuggets of wisdom, lessons learned, and other recommendations on how we can help women launch and grow a business in challenging times. Our panelists joining us today are Tuesday Knight. She is president and CEO of San Antonio for Growth on the East Side, or known as SAGE. She's overseen the rebuilding of San Antonio and has served as a key member on the San Antonio Chamber of Commerce, where she made sure that the chamber was a resource for new ventures. Magaly Chocano is the founder of SWEB Development and her latest venture, the Good Guild. She is also co-chair and president-elect of the Entrepreneurs Organization. She also serves on boards for the Witty, Venture Lab, Tech Block, and various university mentoring programs. Magaly's story especially is one of resilience after a catastrophic fire at her office before the pandemic drove everyone into quarantine. Chef Ann Ng is co-founder of Bakery Lorraine. She has 4 locations, 3 in San Antonio and 1 in Austin. Bakery Lorraine, if you have not eaten her wonderful food and pastries, it's been recognized as the best bakery in the US by Food and Wine, one of the 13 destination bakeries by Condé Nast Travelers. That's just for starters. This CIA graduate previously worked in Thomas Keller's Bouchon Bakery in Napa Valley before she moved to San Antonio and started her own bakery. And then finally, we have Mona Helmy, who is the CEO of Helmy Plastics. There, she oversees the advanced manufacture of custom molded plastics. And she'll be talking to us today about how she pivoted her business model early in the beginning days of the pandemic to help serve the needs of medical workers. She's known throughout San Antonio for promoting local manufacturing industry and is a member of SAMA, NAVO, SA100, and other entrepreneurial organizations. So I want to thank all 4 of you today for joining us, ladies. It's an incredible honor to be able to talking to you. Let's go ahead and dive into the discussion. I'd like to start first with Magaly, because you faced a pretty daunting challenge before the pandemic started earlier this year. So I wondered if you could spend a few minutes talking about what happened to you and what happened to the headquarters of SWEB, please.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a super random fire. And we had bought our building 3 years ago, completely renovated it. It was absolutely beautiful in Southtown, my pride and joy. And one morning we went in, I actually was in a board meeting and I got a call from one of my employees, and he said, the building's on fire. And I was like, wait, what? What are you talking about? The building's on fire? We'll get a fire extinguisher. You know, I mean, what? And by 10:30 that morning, it was completely gone. So completely consumed. And that was a Friday morning. The most amazing thing was like how the San Antonio community really came together. By 11 a.m., just the phone calls and the text messages were so overwhelmingly amazing. I already had a space to be in, which we're still in, although we're working from home, but I have an office base now. You know, just the love. And then 2 weeks later, we were shut down by COVID. So, you know, it was sort of like tragedy after tragedy. Although I think now looking back, it was a kind of a blessing in disguise, you know. I mean, it was just a sort of a discovery of how our team was so resilient sort of through all of that. No?
So interestingly enough, what did you discover, going through, one daunting challenge after another? I mean, 2020 is definitely going to go down in the history books for SWEB.
That's for sure. Look, on one hand, it was interesting because it was a Friday. And so the first thing we did was I was like, by 11, we were having drinks at a bar, AM, because I don't know what else to do. I was like, let's all go and have drinks. And we grabbed a notebook by 11:30 a.m. to like write down what Monday looked like. I mean, it's pretty crazy to kind of go through that. And so, the idea was that we really couldn't skip a beat with our clients, right? So how that was going to pan out. On the other hand, was I needed to make sure that my team was okay. That was a tragic loss, and they were all in the building. So that was, hearing the explosion, and the smoke come in, and they're not knowing, what's going on. I mean, it was pretty violent in that way. So I think that what we learned was, one, there's not a moment in which we can stop, right? It's like paralysis is the worst thing that can happen. And so, taking one step, and by Monday at 8:30 in the morning, we were all in the new office.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like, the key takeaways from the first hours after the devastating news is to check in with your team, make sure your team's okay, rally, and then start brainstorming on how you're going to continue, the operations. Business continuity is critical if you're going to keep a business going. So you started brainstorming right away, and then that helped you, continue pretty much without a beat, because I remember reading the coverage about what you were going through. And Monday you were meeting with clients just from alternate location.
We were back up and running. I would say the first step was to go and get a drink. I would say like the calming effect of like coming together, sitting down somewhere, like, oh my God, moment, right? And then sort of like, we have to acknowledge our feelings, right? I mean, we acknowledge what's going on. We all cried and then we were like, okay, done, next step, right? And so that was really amazing. It was amazing to see all the friends come in. But yes, it was sort of, what's the next step? What are we all gonna do? Sort of divide and conquer. And mostly for me, it was like, okay, how am I gonna keep my team, and now what the next step sort of as a business is? And for them, it was keeping their clients taken care of, yeah.
So I want you to keep that thought, because I want to come back at the end to all four of you and ask for like your big pieces of advice of what you should do so that you can always be ready for something this big, right? And so from Magaly, I'd like to go to Anne. And when think back to the beginning of like when the pandemic started becoming real, what was the first time that you realized it would impact you as a business owner of the 4 bakery locations? Can you walk us through what happened and what first steps you took?
Yeah, sure. It actually was, it was a little bit gradual until lockdown happened. But once they announced lockdown, I mean, you look at your daily sales drop 85, 90% at every store. And you're like, oh my God, like this is happening. We got to do something about it. And I mean, first, the shock hits you, and then you learn to accept it and think, we have to do something, because this isn't just, for myself or for Jeremy. This is for all the people who work for us too. Everybody, like we have to figure out a way to keep it afloat, to keep food coming for everybody, keep everyone paid. So we've never been through anything like this before. So the biggest thing that we learned was to stay fluid and flexible. Just try something out. If that doesn't work, let's move on to the next thing. It's a series of Band-Aids. Let's see what sticks. So that was really crazy. we actually came up, my husband Jeremy, who runs the business with me, he actually came up with this really clever idea of, hey, you know, people are stuck at home, they need something to do, especially you know, if they have kids. Let's make some cookie dough. It'll keep our guys busy in the kitchen because we've already cleaned everything, I don't know, 5-6 times. There was nothing left to clean. So we made cookie dough, we sold it at our stores, and it was amazing to see how the community responded. 100% of the sales of all those cookies went to our employees. We had a fund, and you know, we gave to the employees who were furloughed, gave to the employees who were still working with us, but then their incomes have been drastically affected. So I think that was a great project because it really bonded our relationship with the community and our employees. You know, like it transcends that. We're a community and we're all connected, and we really saw that with that cookie dough project.
You know, and Anne, you bring up an interesting point. I don't think before the pandemic, many of us may not have had an appreciation of how important our restaurants, our cafes, our coffee shops, our small businesses, they're gathering places for the community. You go and the person behind the counter knows you by name because they know your order because you're going there every week. And so the fact that, you know, you were iterative, you know, you were flexible, trying to come up with different ways to keep the numbers working so that you could keep your employees employed, you know, coming up with this cookie project, not only does it help pay them, but then it also helps engage the community, especially during a trying time when, you know, when I remember back to the early days of the pandemic, it was just endless day of, you know, ambiguous anxiety. So having things like a cookie kit that you could pick up curbside, wonderful idea, right? So I think it's important to state small business owners provide community, and you demonstrated beautifully just how something that you're doing for business continuity can also serve that dual purpose.
Yeah. Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
You know, it really, through the pandemic, like how the community job was the most amazing thing, and like you really felt like you weren't alone going through this. Magaly came up with an awesome project. They raised money and bought gift cards from different restaurants. So, you know, you have members of the community who reach out to you, and it's just, it's so touching. It made me cry. Like it really moved me. Like
we raised $140,000 and gave it all back in 8 weeks.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. And so again, here is, you know, people forget small businesses form the fabric of our communities. And it's so touching. And I can see that it really made a difference to you, Anne. And I'm getting moved too, because I want to see all of our favorite businesses. You know, you all are an important part of the fabric of San Antonio. So this is why we're having this discussion, because we want to help as many female entrepreneurs who are struggling with childcare, you know, remote learning, right, for your students at home, you know, sharing office space at home, trying to keep your businesses going. We want to let you know you're not alone. We see you, we see your struggle, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure you make it. So I'm glad that you're sharing your story. If I could turn a moment to Mona, you know, so I know a lot of restaurants spent the first, you know, couple of weeks, like what Anne just said, endlessly, like, let's clean, let's renovate, let's paint, let's do all the repairs that we've been putting off because we've been too busy, and now we're not. Mona, what did you do in the first early days of the pandemic at Helmy Plastics? I've been to your facility, and it's always busy when I, you know, visited there in before times. So what was it like in the first weeks? And when did you realize I need to pivot and do something a little different than normal?
So I actually realized that, I would say early March, when we start hearing about COVID and that it's coming. I took over my company in 2009 as CEO, and that was during the worst economic recession. And that experience had taught me to be in a street fighter mode right away when things started happening. So early March, I decided I needed to do something. My first priority was my team, and then it was the community, because, you know, COVID is coming, and what can I do? What can Helmy do to help? And that's when I started thinking, what kind of product? PPE was in severe demand at the time, and I started thinking, what kind of product Helmy can do to help San Antonio and help keep our doors open at the same time. So my first thought was masks, and then that project proved to be a little bit more difficult because we didn't have the right equipment. So I shifted gear to face shield, and we actually worked day and night. The whole team, we were up and running for 2 weeks straight, trying to set up production line and trying to create tooling. And by the end of March, we were actually kicking products out of the door. So when everybody was shutting down and was staying home, we were actually working around the clock. April was my busiest month trying to make those shields. Now, we did not do this project for profit. We sold them at cost, a little bit above cost, but it was the hands down, it was the most satisfying project I've ever worked on, and it made me and my whole team really enjoy that month. Even though we were working around the clock, it was just our team. We locked the door, it was COVID. We needed hands, so we hired the kids of the employees. Those were college kids that were home and they needed a job, and we brought them in. So it was just our small little family working during that time.
That's incredible to hear. And so now, we're 6 months in. Can you tell me, are you still making the shields? Are you fulfilling other, typical orders as well?
Okay, so honestly, the shield project, we sold the most in April. May, we did do some sales, and then sales tapered down. But then our business picked up. So when COVID hit, everybody who used to order from us were panicking, and their jobs, their factory or whatever closed down. So our orders were down, tremendously down in April and May and June. And that's where the Shield project kept us going. Now we're seeing the normal orders getting back to normal. The Shield sales are down, of course, because there is no more panic, not as much. And there are more people making face shields, and products are coming from overseas also. So at the end, it really works out. We are still making shields and we are still selling them, but shields are going to medical entities as they were intended to be in the first place. The common people, the restaurant, the construction, the people that were buying, they're not buying anymore, but the medical entities are still buying.
So in listening to the three entrepreneurs that we have sharing your stories, what strikes me is your immediate response was gather the team together, make sure everyone is doing okay, right? Reach out to the employees, college kids, make sure that your employees are still getting paid. And each of you came up with a community project that had a big impact on those people around you. In Magaly's case, it's the project with buying, gift cards for restaurants. In Anne's case, it was, keeping her employees paid while she was giving us hope during the darkest times with the cookie kits. And in your case, Mona, it was with the face shields. I mean, I'm amazed, and yet I'm not amazed at the similarities, because at heart, all three of you are very intentional entrepreneurs. And so now I'd like to turn to Tuesdaé, because I suspect Tuesdaé has some incredible insights to share, because she works with so many other entrepreneurs as well in your work as CEO of Sage. So Tuesdaé, I wondered if you could take a moment and like share with us, what have you been seeing from your community, the entrepreneurs in particular, the female entrepreneurs especially, the struggles, the responses, and what can you share with us?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm just as engaged listening to these three beautiful ladies than I think probably our audience. So I just think their stories are so overwhelmingly passionate and engaging. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I'm in a little bit different boat. I didn't create this organization, but I am the CEO of it. And so I'm very thankful that we get to do what we do. So we are more in the support role. And so we support these small businesses. Interestingly enough, when all of this happened, we were also in the office, and I thankfully work with people who are a lot smarter than me. And they were like, hey, this is coming. We need to be prepared. What do we need to do? And I'm like, you do it. My bandwidth is here. I'm focusing on this. You focus on this part. And they did. But really what was the impetus for us to close our office was we had somebody come in and was talking to us. They had gloves on, mask, and we're giving a presentation. 20 minutes into his presentation, he said, hey, I just want to let you know, I just got off of a cruise yesterday, and I don't think I have COVID, but I'm just, being precautious. And I'm like, wait, what? Freaked all of our staff out. And it really was the last straw for us to say, okay, we need to close our office and work remotely. And thankfully, my team had already prepared us for that. So we worked remotely from home since day one. Since we closed our office on March 17th, we have been supporting businesses. Our plan for the year was, I think, the 2020 word of the year, which was pivot. We pivoted all of our programs and what we did. So from our support role that we offered with our newsletter, we completely changed that to opportunities, resources, things that were available. For our back office program, where we help people with their finance and their marketing and their grant writing, we turned that into helping businesses apply for PPE. We helped more than 75 businesses do that. So everything that we did, we had to continue doing, but on a different way. Everything turned virtual, everything turned into that support realm. So from pivoting to what I like to tell my team is we practice a lot of the F word. Anne said it earlier, but we're very flexible. We have to be able to provide those services to our businesses, and we have to figure out what is the best way for us to do that. And that's what we're trying to do every single day. So it's a little bit different than these beautiful ladies on this call, but it is a story that we share with everybody on this call, and that we just want to be the biggest support that we can be for businesses and continue to provide those services.
So you bring up a good point about being flexible and learning how to pivot. Now that it's been 6 months, we're experiencing fatigue. I don't know about you, but I mean, I've got Zoom high school going on behind this physical screen. So it's certainly different. Tuesdaé, I wondered if you could talk about, and I'm going to ask everyone, all the other ladies as well, for the next 6 to 12 months. What are you foreseeing as the way ahead? Are we going to have to shift and maybe refine how we're doing things for just long-term sustainability? Because, you can live on adrenaline only so long. And so now how can female business owners, hang in there until we come out on the other side of the pandemic?
Well, listen, I think that we already are equipped with everything we need. If you listen to everybody on this call, the first thing they said was we have to take care of our people. And that is the most important. And that's what they all did. And that's what we continue to do. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, we're doing check-ins and we're checking in with all of our staff. How are you doing? Is everything okay? Is your kid jumping on the table? What's going on? And so we'd have these check-ins. And so, after a few months, we stopped having them. And so one day we just decided to have one, and I said, hey, how's everybody doing? And it took my youngest and newest staff person to say, you know what, I'm not okay. This is hard. I live by myself. I'm fatigued. I'm, all of these other feelings. And so what do I do about that? And so that led me to believe, okay, now we're getting into that next wave of, we dealt with the situation then, now we're getting into the long haul. What do we do there? And I think that all of us are starting to get into that. Thankfully, with the supportive services that we provide, we're partnering with all kinds of folks, the city of San Antonio, the county, federal agencies, local agencies, in order to get that type of support to provide it. So this is not anything that's going to go away. Sadly, as I lovingly call this pandemic, the apocalypse, this apocalypse is going to last for a lot longer. So we have to be prepared for what that's going to look like. So financial support is imperative. That's going on county and citywide, federally as well. We've got to help these businesses with the basics. You know, all of these businesses outside of the ladies on the call really had issues going into this. Financial support. We'd have people coming into our offices with their taxes in a shoebox, or, you know, they didn't know that they needed to keep their personal and business accounts separate. So it's more of the learning, and it's, yes, we need to give people a fish because they need that financial support, but we also need to teach them how to fish. And that's what we're trying to do. We have to get people engaged in the process of learning how to deal with this, because it's not going away.
So you bring up some very good points, especially I think the point of, you know, if you haven't done so already, this is the time to like clean house, the deep cleaning of your business house, right? Of if there's been something on your website and you've been putting it off and putting it off, this is the time to like revamp it so you can bring in more e-commerce. If it's, you know, your accounting practices, this is the time to visit with your accountant and take it from the shoebox to something, you know, much more organized in a digital format. Ladies, let me ask Magaly, because I know Magaly, you mentioned, if I recall, in the early days of responding to the catastrophic fire, that luckily you had a lot of your processes already in the cloud. So is there any other advice you would give to female entrepreneurs on what they can do in terms of like just business housekeeping, things that that they haven't done by now, they should be doing?
Sorry, I wanted to actually shift a little bit, not so much on the processes, which I think, you know, everybody is learning on their own. And I think everyone's business is so different, right? So mine was just it's a virtual business just by the, you know, or what it is. But really what I focused on, and I had been focusing on for many, many years, is making sure that my team was okay. And when we suddenly had to go home from sort of this sort of big devastation, but now sort of a second hit, right, was really looking at the mental health of my team, right? Because we were very close and are very, very close. And so not being with each other, a lot of my employees had kids. And so now it was like the kids, the schools, or the summers, or the, you know, some had, you know, anxiety levels different than others. Some people were completely alone, right? So dealing with that was actually really what I focused on for many months. And so we just made sure that we, you know, touched base every single day at some point as a team huddle through Zoom, right? Making sure that we were seeing each other, making sure that we were phone calling. I was texting, I was sending little gift cards to everybody and loving on them. We actually, as a company for years, do quarterly retreats in person, you know, and so we like take a day off and we have, you know, learning and also fun. And I was like, how can we bring that back virtually? So we had a virtual retreat. We brought a mental health specialist to kind of talk about, you know, how are we doing, you know, and it was really, and some people are into it, you know, I'm really like that. And so everybody knows me. So they like, you know, they're okay with me bringing it in, but it's really interesting, right? It's like how people, how the team really appreciated that. And even if it was just taking a breather for 4 hours of their day, just being able to be with themselves was really nice. And then now, actually today, after this, I'm creating a virtual / in-person event for anybody that wants to come. So we're going to the McNay and we're going to see Kelly O'Connor's piece, and she's coming to talk to us about it. And we're all going to be masked, and, you know, we'll be social distanced. And so things that my team feels that we're still with them. We're still human. Like they're still, it's just important, right? That they have that, I don't know, that life is kind of it's changed, but it's still the same. Like we're still here, we're still alive, we still breathe, we still need all the same things.
Well, and I think you highlight, you know, work is also another gathering place that's a vital part of the community fabric, right? You go to work and you have friendships at work, and you know, there's all the little stories that you tell at the end of the day from the time that you spend at work. And if your work day is spent, you know, in your sweatpants looking at a computer all day, I mean, that can get pretty lonely.
Exactly.
And then you add in that added layer, especially for so many women, of child care, home care, elder care. You know, if you have elderly family members living with you as well, it becomes so overwhelming. So it sounds like you've been able to really highlight and focus when you don't see your teammates on a regular basis. You really can't take that sense of community for granted. And so not only do you have to reinforce a sense of community, but then you also have to make sure those injects, checking in for well-being. How are you doing? Are you going nuts? It's okay to tell me if you're not having a good day, because you know what? We're all having bad days.
Exactly.
Right?
Also, you need to polish off your wardrobe. I mean, come on, like suddenly high heels seem like a good idea, you know?
I hope
For
one
everyone.
day, I hope one day to wear my high heels. I was just looking at my collection last night and thinking, I should just get rid of this and put something more practical here. And it's like, I'm holding on to them.
Hold on, hold on, hold on.
I'm being
Don't do
hopeful.
it.
I'm being hopeful.
Don't do it.
So Anne, you know, you're in a situation where the only way that, you know, really you can, I mean, you are open, you do see customers, of course, under altered conditions. How are you checking in with your team members, especially since you have 4 locations? How's that going for you now?
I mean, I can't physically be everywhere at the same time, but I will say, I do feel a lot closer with all my staff members through all this, because we've always been so busy, especially at the cafes. There's really not a moment to breathe. Everyone who works for us knows what that feels like. But, you know, going through COVID this year has been really trying, not just because of COVID or the lockdown or the drop off of business, but it's brought different kinds of responses from people. So we've had to address, you know, racist events at the bakery, harassment, you know, just people being belligerent. It's brought out a lot of things that we've never had to deal with before, to be honest. And so it's uncharted. I feel like, you know, so we've taken the past few months really, taken the time to sit and have a conversation with all our different employees, get their feedback, do some retraining, and kind of, you know, figure out what this workplace is going to look like in the future. And getting their feedback, getting my guys' feedback has been really, really important through all this.
And I think you touched on a really critical point. You know, it's a turning point, I think, for everyone around the world dealing with the pandemic, but particularly right now in the United States. Fear and panic makes people react in very interesting and, as you notice, sadly, some very difficult ways. And we're seeing that. So how to be able to handle that, to manage that, and then hopefully get past it. So that I really, truly hope, I'm trying to be very optimistic here, that 2021 is going to be a year of reckoning on so many levels. Reckoning of the balance, right? For especially female business owners, because we feel it more than other entrepreneurs, right? Feeling it for women of color, for you know, Hispanic women. I mean, just in general, for people who may not have been visible before. we are demanding to be visible now. And so I'm hopeful that this reckoning will be a healing process for all of us, because folks have to understand we need our small businesses to survive, because that's going to give us that sense of normalcy when normalcy does come back. So if we don't take care of our female business owners now, you're going to be missing a huge chunk of that feeling normal when we're looking to return to somewhat of a new normal. I mean, I keep telling people we're not in the new normal yet. Right now, we're in this terribly jarring next normal. It's the next normal of, oh my gosh, this is a global pandemic. We've talked about it. We've tried to prepare for it, but it's finally happened. And how are we all responding to it? How are we trying to adjust to it? Once there's, vaccines, normal is going to take a while. That new normal is going to take a while. It's not going to happen from one day to the next. It's going to be a process. And through that process, we need all of you and all of the female entrepreneurs that are out there to survive, to thrive, to keep your families together, to keep your team of employees going, so that you're going to be there and be part of that fabric of our community, because we're going to need this more than ever when we emerge on the other side. So, I mean, I thank you. I'm sorry that you're experiencing this, but I'm really thankful that you're sharing that with us now, because we need to see that, and we need to understand it's happening and it's not okay, and we need to address it. So thank you for sharing your story, Anne. Mona, your challenge with the manufacturing facility and trying to keep everyone going, making sure that your team is okay. What do you see now? It's been after 6 months. You're looking ahead. What are you seeing? And maybe you can share something that might be helpful for other female entrepreneurs that are in your same position.
So the honest truth, it's hard being a small business owner. I mean, it's hard in good time. It's even harder when we have COVID. I do agree with you 100% that the goal is to keep everybody going. And you can only keep a company, you can only save a company if you're able to keep the company running. As long as the company is running, you can save it. Once it's shut down, it becomes very hard or obsolete. So I think the goal of every business owner, every CEO, every business, whether it's manufacturing, restaurant, is at this time is keep your business going. So for me personally, we don't know if things are going to get better in a month or two. It could go back. We could have a second wave, hopefully not. So from now until next year, I think everybody should tighten the belt. If you are a CEO and you can cut your salary, cut your salary. When I took over my company in 2009, the only way I was able to save the company is I stopped taking salary for 2 years and I got myself a side job so I can live personally. And that's how I got Helmy back and running. Right now, if you need to take jobs at just cost, just to keep your employees going, then go ahead and take this job. Right now is not the time to make a profit. I think if you are just able to keep your doors open, then you're a hero. And then hopefully when things turn around, then you can turn everything around. But that would be my advice for everybody. Keep your door open, no matter how you do it, tighten the belts.
Thank you, Mona. You bring up a very important point, and I've had an entrepreneur who mentors tell me, Iris, right now, flat is the new up. If you can maintain what you were making before the pandemic, you're doing great. Because most businesses, like you just mentioned, they've all experienced, decrease in revenue. And so you have options, like you said, either cutting your salary or taking a side gig just to keep the doors open. Tuesdaé, I was hoping now, as we're getting in the back laps of the race, if I could ask you the kind of advice that you'll be giving entrepreneurs for 2021. You know, it's the sustainability, it's trying to endure for the long term, maybe something like what Mona just mentioned or what Ann just pointed to. Can you maybe talk about what you're thinking about and what you're telling your clients as they come in and ask for advice for 2021?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing I think that I tell anybody, woman, man, child, pet, is right now to be kind to yourself. This is such a hard time, and especially as business owners, leaders, whatever the case may be, we are pouring so much into other people that we sometimes forget about ourselves. And, you know, we've talked about this wave that's happened that, you know, now we're in here. I don't think the wave's ever stopped. You know, let's talk about murder hornets, the West Coast being on fire, you know, all of the racial injustices that are happening, police brutality. I mean, it has not stopped. And these things happen throughout all years and other years, obviously, but now it's just so much more focused upon because we don't have anything else to focus on. And so my hope for next year and the years going forward is that some of these hard lessons that we're learning stay throughout 2021. This kindness that everybody's been talking about, I hope that that stays. I hope the spotlight that everybody is putting onto the small businesses, onto the workers that are hourly, onto the people that are deserving of having our empathy, of having, you know, that support, that continues. So I know as women, we typically do that, and it's just inherent in who we are. The other thing that I would tell women is to take chances. You know, we're not as, we don't do that as much. And I for my men who are watching, this is specifically for you. You guys actually will apply for something and have no fear of rejection. And I don't know if that's because you've been rejected for dates or whatever the case, but you will have 4 of the 10 characteristics for a job and they'll apply. Women will have 8 of 10 and say, well, I'm not so great at this part. Take a chance. Take a chance on that job. Take a chance on creating that business and do it. There is so much support, and especially here in San Antonio, we are one of the most relationship-driven cities I've ever lived in my life. I love it to infinity. The fact that you walk into a room and you have to hug and kiss 2,700 people. I love that and I miss that. But it's going to come back hopefully one day. But the fact of the matter is that we are that community and we are that city. So rely on the fact that all of this help is out there. There's so many resources that we don't even know about. Take advantage of those. Take advantage of the support that we've talked about, the financial support, the guidance, all of these things that are happening, they're out there and we need to find them. So that's my other thing. Take a chance, have faith in yourself, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. Be a nice human being. You know, it doesn't take much to smile at somebody, even though you're wearing a mask, people can see it in your eyes. It doesn't take, you know, a hard lesson for you to know that people need that support and that love right now. So again, I just think that it is something that is going to be long-term. People just have to admit it, suck it up, and know that it's going to happen. And there's going to be probably some more waves and hits that are going to happen before the end of the year. But guess what? We're all still here and we're all still working together. And I think inherently, as a woman, you have to deal with so many other things. Just put that on your list. These are the things that I need to do. And these are the things that I need to do for myself in order for me to continue being the person that I need to be for my staff, for my family, for everybody that relies upon me. So.
Hear, hear, sister. I love it. I love all of it. And you're right. You know, as women, we're always driving ourselves. And you're right. I mean, it's documented by studies that women are just not as willing to take a risk. And, you know, venture capitalists talk about it all the time. Like, well, you know, but if anything, you should invest in female-owned businesses because if they're launching a business, you better believe it's because they have everything checked off. They know what they're doing and they're certain, you know, about all the uncertainties, right? They've managed to scope it and they've got checklists and spreadsheets galore.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. And so if anything, you know, because I write about innovation-driven startups, you know, and I have to admit in the beginning, I thought, well, I guess it's going to be a down year for San Antonio startup community. Quite the contrary. I have not stopped writing, and I hear about companies that have pivoted or they decided to launch because it's like, why not? This is a good time to do it. right? Because I'm not traveling, I'm not going to meetings, I don't have all that time doing socially rich activities like I used to before. So why not go ahead and launch XYZ, you know, risky proposition, but it could have a huge payoff. So ladies, take a chance on yourself. You can do it. Si se puede. You can try it. Si se puede. And even if you fail, you will learn something from the experience, guaranteed. And I think the other important lesson that you touched upon is, you know, reach out for help. And women, if you can't put it away the way I need you to put it away, I'll just do it myself, right? That's the struggle I've got with teen chores at home. No, ask for help, because my new saying now, and I've shared this with my other, you know, lady friends, it's like, you're tired. I know you're tired. Ask for help. What you say is this: it's beyond me. It doesn't mean you can't do it. Oh, I could do it. If I stopped sleeping, sure, I could do it. But you know what? That's just not healthy. So it's beyond me. I invite you to take on XYZ. And so far, it's working. Now, it doesn't mean that it gets done the way I would have done it. But oh my Lord, I mean, ask for help, because not everything should be on your plate necessarily. You can say, it's beyond me. I invite you. Take this on. Please take this on. Do it. It does take a village. Oh my goodness, Magaly, you're laughing. And so I'm thinking, have you had some it's beyond me moments that you want to share in terms of advice for 2021?
Yeah, actually, when I started in this together, which is basically the building burns down, 2 weeks later, COVID, 3D, you know, then all my friends are like literally losing their businesses, you know, and I'm in this organization called EO, Entrepreneur Organization, which is like a total lifesaver. And it's a global organization. I think all entrepreneurs should be in it. I'm the president of the chapter this year here in San Antonio. And I was just seeing, you know, like left and right? Just everybody is in shambles. And so I woke up one morning, I was like, I'll show you. I was like, I'm going to get something designed. So we designed this little thing. My creative director designed this, and I put it on t-shirts, and I made stickers, and I made masks. And I posted it on Facebook. Like literally that's what I did. I created a website. I posted a post. And about 2 weeks later, it had consumed my life in such a way, like I had no idea, that I had to hire 2 people to manage it. So, you know, yeah, it was sort of like, okay, I can't do it on my own, because I'm also managing my business and managing myself and managing my family and, you know, everything that was sort of going around that. Also trying to keep the self-care for me, which is something that I'm new to, but now a fervent believer in it. And so I hired 2 people, and I was like, I need help. I'm not going to do it on my own. I don't care. It's like, you know, a little bit of the money that we're making from this is just going to have to go to pay a salary, because there's no way. And it was fabulous, because they were able to manage it really well, and it went really well. And, you know, we sold, like I'm telling you, $140,000 in 8 weeks, of which we completely redistributed to restaurants and health and wellness places. I mean, I would have never been able to do that on my own.
So in other words, why not take on something new? Because chances are it's going to bring in abundance.
It is.
Right?
It
right.
Is. Also, I would recommend a COVID puppy.
COVID pets.
It was the greatest thing. I'm going to show you mine, because he's right here next to me. He's like my best friend.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That is so adorable.
And seriously, he's been my mental sanity. It was like, what do I need for me? While I'm sort of like, you know, navigating all this craziness. And his name is Paco. And just walking Paco 3 times a day is like, makes me go out, makes me think, makes me, yeah. He's also my date night, so.
Hey.
Oh.
And you don't mind cleaning up after him?
No.
Mona, we got a question about pivoting and pivoting hard, and so Rihanna asks a question. She doesn't want to lose sight of the services because she's had to pivot hard herself as a business owner. And she wants to ask, how have you pivoted in your industry without losing sight of or dropping the main services you provided prior to COVID?
So again, I could foresee that our normal line of business is gonna take a break because the orders are not gonna be coming. The shield I developed is still within my industry. So it is manufacturing. The biggest component of it is plastic and it requires assembly. So it is within what we do. But to the lady that asked, do not be afraid to pivot, even if it's not with your industry, because the biggest thing we can do is to think outside that box. So like Anne said, they never sold cookie dough, but when COVID hit, they sold cookie dough. I had a friend that owns Annie's, the pretzel place, and what they did is they sold a kit. They've never sold a kit. You have to think outside the box, and you have to stay in your wartime leader mode before now and for the next few months, until we see how things are going. You will not lose your own line if you dedicate still the same time. So even though we were doing the face shield, we still called on all of our customer, and we still took job, and we still serviced those people. And those customers that had placed order but wanted us to warehouse for a little bit longer because they weren't selling, we worked for them. So you can do both simultaneously.
So what are you looking for 2021 as you look ahead, Mona, and any advice that you would give business owners before I go to Anne?
Yes, I mean, if I'm gonna offer just like 4 quick thoughts, I would say think outside the box, stay in that wartime leader mode, respect your gut feeling. If your gut feeling telling you go for it, go for it. If your gut feeling, no matter what, get the opportunity, because that's something that always proved for me. And then learn 2 things. Cash is king, and your team is your biggest asset. If you put all of these together, I think you can do it. Keep that company running, because if it's running, you will save it and you will get back out.
Excellent, all very excellent points, Mona. Thank you so much. And I really want Bakery Lorraine to be there for me in 2021. I really need your pastries, So I was hoping, now that you've listened to the other ladies talk about, their gems of wisdom that they're sharing, restaurants are, I think, particularly vulnerable to the downturn and to the restrictions from COVID-19. So what's your game plan for 2021, and how can that possibly maybe be helpful advice for someone who's in a similar position?
So a lot of people are doing really creative things. Like I told you, we tried a lot of things and we found some things that stick, some things that don't. My biggest advice would be not to be afraid of change. Sometimes things like these necessitate that you pivot, and these pivots might be permanent. Some of them might be, but don't be scared of it. It's just the way it is. You have to go with the flow. So don't be afraid to explore, pursue what you think is good. Traditionally at the bakery, because we're a bakery, we do a lot of AM and afternoon business. We don't really do a dinner business, but at one of our locations at the Domain, for example, it's been severely impacted because a lot of the businesses around us are tech businesses. And by that nature, they've all started working from home. So we have lost our weekday lunch business out there. So we're thinking of, you know, well, what can we do? What can we do to address this problem? Because we don't want to shut that location down. Well, you know, we might have to do a dinner service, which is something we've never done, but it's something new. Let's work on it. Let's explore it, and let's see if it sticks. It might be a new source of revenue that we've never explored before, and then we can look into implementing that in the other stores. You know, so that's a big pivot.
Thank you, Anne. And remember, pastries. Don't stop making those pastries.
We'll keep them coming.
Okay, so with our last 5 minutes, let's do a rapid round. Let's end on a positive note. And you can volunteer to be first. What is the one silver lining from everything that's happened this year? What's one positive thing that you're like, it would have never happened to me if it weren't for 2020? What's the silver lining? One silver lining that you can share. Who wants to go? Magaly wants to go first. Go ahead, lady.
Mine is that I don't think I would have ever thought I could fully go remote, because I was so entrenched in sort of like my building and working together and always being together. And I just never thought we could get the same, you know, level of work, and blown past that. It's amazing. I want to think of sort of a new way to come back, actually.
Okay, who wants to go next?
I'll go next. So mine is realizing the importance of the community and San Antonio. And as a manufacturer, I've always advocated for Made in the USA, but because of COVID, we're gonna take it one step further. Made in San Antonio first, made in Texas second, made in the USA third. And if everybody follows that, we will all benefit.
Okay.
Tuesday, do you have a silver lining?
You know, I think my silver lining is realizing your inner strength. You know, again, and I'm just going to focus again on women here, in that we do so much for so many other people that you don't ever think about the things that you're bringing to the table, right? You know, you're the business owner, you know that you're doing all of these things, you're taking care of your family, but sometimes we don't look and say, hey, I did that. I did that. And I did it by myself. Or, you know, I came up with that idea by myself. We don't do that enough. We're always nurturing so many other people. So for me, and it's a lesson that I have to learn for myself, because I am the worst at, oh, I accomplished this, because my next thing is, what's the next move? Great, we did it. It's great. What do we have to do next? And I think that as women, we do that. So I think that specifically loving yourself, self-care, mental health is all important, because guess what? That business is not going to run if you drop dead from taking care of everybody else. So take care of yourself, love yourself, and pat yourself on the back every now and then. It's okay.
Yay. Thank you. Anne, you're closing us out. What's your silver lining?
You know, this really made us embrace technology in an industry that is traditionally not reliant on a lot of technology. We're still pretty old school, but you know, we took over developing our own curbside, like to go ordering. We've managed to take this downtime and computerize and database all of our inventory, ordering systems, you know, things that you don't think of, but technology is important. You when you work with it, it can help you grow and improve in amazing ways.
Hear, hear, sister. I want to thank all 4 of our wonderful panelists today: Anne Ng, Mona Helmy, Magaly Chocano, and Tuesday Night. You've shared inspiring stories of grit, determination, and resilience, and inspiration. My name's Iris Gonzalez, and I also want to thank the team at San Antonio Startups Week, which actually this year, because of the pandemic, is San Antonio Startup Month. So tune in for other panel discussions, and we hope to see you very soon. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Iris, and thank you, ladies, for this panel. I just want to invite everyone to our next session, Embarking on the Creative Hustle. The speaker is going to be Danny Batista, so we will see you at 2 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, ladies. Good luck. You guys are killing it.
You, everyone.
Everybody. It's nice to meet everyone.
Yes.
Thank you, Iris.
We'll meet at Bakery Lorraine for pastry soon.
All right.
We're on.
Pastries and coffee.
Love that.
I'll bring a shield.
For everybody.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, y'all.